and then they slammed the door shut, locked the key, and left us outside with the McDonald's meal.
SAR Experience.
Всем привет and welcome back to another episode of the Vodka Vodcast with me, Connor Klein. This is the SAR Experience, and today we're going to get into a storytelling episode of the Vodcast. So I'm here in Odessa in Ukraine, on the shores of the Black Sea, as I like to say so often, and it's really stunning in terms of the weather. It is basically the end of August. It's 35 degrees Celsius. It's actually almost a little bit too hot for me, and sometimes the hot weather makes people do a little bit, I guess, things that are a little bit crazy and everything. So in this one, I'm going to be outlining a funny story that happened to a friend of mine, and I was there to witness it this summer, a little bit earlier in the summer, and actually it's one that several of you requested that I tell the story in more detail as you I basically alluded to it in one of my other videos. I alluded to this story, the McDonald's scammer. So that it kind of intrigued everybody as a story, as a title. So now I'm going to give you the details of what happened, and there is a serious point behind all this. It's like scams, unfortunately, targeted men in the dating scene here in Ukraine tend to be pretty common. A lot of my foreign friends who visited me here in Ukraine have complained about it, and as you know, I made these two videos recently, 5 reasons never to date a Ukrainian and 5 more reasons never to date a Ukrainian. By the time you see this podcast episode, I'll have released 5 reasons to date a Ukraine. That's coming up, so it's not all bad, of course. Why wouldn't? If it was, then no one else would be here. So, but there are, in those videos, of course, we talked about, or at least I talked about, some of the scams that have happened and that affected my friends primarily, and that leaves obviously a bad flavor when they leave here in Ukraine. So in this one we're going to be going to a slightly funny one, but to start off with, because I renamed this the Vodka Vodcast, it would not be that unless I actually drank a vodka, because this is episode 9. This is actually episode 10 of the Vodcast. By the time I actually put them all together and publish them, there will be a little bit of delay. So Budmo, which is of course cheers in Ukrainian, I will make that a bit of a theme in the Vodka Vodcast. So maybe I can even get a sponsor. I'm allowed that on YouTube or not? A vodka sponsor. Well, if you're a vodka company, you know who to write to. Write me a message below. My email is there. So basically, my friend, he connected with a girl on a dating app. Now, it wasn't actually Tinder, it was another app, the one that I'm not familiar with. It's called Bumble, and Bumble basically has a slight difference, which is that when you connect, it's the woman that has to actually make the first step and write the first message. Guys cannot actually write the first message with this app, so that's a little bit different. I've never used it personally. It doesn't seem to be very popular here. My friend had been using it in United States, where apparently it is popular, and then when he came to Odessa, he used it. Now that was the first thing that I found a little bit strange, is that this is a city and country where the app is not popular. So I thought, okay, you connected with someone on Bumble, interesting, maybe I should take a look at it even for myself. And I looked at the profile, and something made me a little bit suspicious. I know what it was. I was looking at her profile photos. She had that she was a student in the United Kingdom, and she had obviously this is one where the profile's in English, that she spoke in English. So for my friend who doesn't speak Russian, this seemed like a good match, but there's something just telling me maybe this girl is not the most genuine in her intentions. So anyways, they set up to meet. At a certain point he says to me, hey, she has a friend who wants to come, do you want to join? Already I'm like, she has a friend who wants to join, means she's interested in date with you, or why is this friend coming? And the friend asked to see a photo of the friend, right? So get a photo looks normal, looks like the girl is nice looking. So I'm like, sure, fine, I will come along if she comes along. That way it will be obviously some sort of double date. I'm still a little bit suspicious about having looked at the profile. It's just like there is a lot of just high number of glamorous photos and places, photos in ostentatious places, and I'm thinking, well, there's always a bit of a high risk here in Ukraine that girls, because men, to explain to people who are unfamiliar with the dating culture here, guys actually pay for everything. It's not like in Western Europe. So on a date, there is that kind of incentive for someone to go out with you, maybe just wants a free meal in a nice place, because they're not going to obviously contribute towards the cost, just contribute in terms of their time and maybe taking Instagram photos while they're there, which of course is another plus for them. They cannot afford to go to that particular restaurant, because obviously not everyone can afford in any country to go to the nicest places. So this is arranged that we will meet. Then they suggest some very nice restaurant. I mean, that's again maybe why there's this restaurant. I would normally not advise to, if you're unsure ever, to go to the restaurant someone else suggests. I would just pick where you want to go, or I want to go in this situation, as then you have that under control, at least the location, that it's not a scam with a restaurant where then you get lumped with a huge bill, or they just order lots of stuff and then they're receiving some sort of payment from the restaurant. This is one of the things that does happen. I talked about that in one or two of my videos before, about a Portuguese guy who I met here in Odessa, and he actually came in to me when we were to go out and said, hey, does this bill look okay to you? And I was like, I read the bill, it was obviously in Russian, and I said, well, yeah, if you had 18 bottles of champagne, then it's the correct bill. Of course, he had one, so this is how they scammed him, and it was someone he met on Tinder who suggested the restaurant. So that's why I normally would suggest not to do that. So the date is not really arranged, because they suggested where I'd actually been, I think even that afternoon or the night before, and I was like, well, I don't feel like going to that restaurant again. So I said, let's go to this other one. And then they replied, actually, we've been to that one already in the last 24 hours, so we don't want to go there. And then something very strange happened. At that point, I thought, well, they're either going to suggest somewhere else or this is off. But in fact, they suddenly said, yeah, come over to our place. We'll just order takeout, or we'll call food in. And that has never happened in Ukraine with someone I've never met. I mean, this is just kind of weird, right? You don't know the person, you're inviting them over to your place already to order and take in, and especially after requesting to go to expensive restaurants, it immediately made me suspicious. So they send us an address, and I'm like, okay, let's call this girl first, to my friend. So call the phone, and actually she seemed kind of normal on the phone. It didn't seem suspicious and anything in terms of what she wanted. She was just inviting us over because she was tired and she didn't want to, at this point, go through all the hassle of getting ready, because obviously Ukrainian girls need to get prepared and look their best when they leave the house, so especially going to a nice restaurant. So it's going to take a while, and she was tired, and her friend, they had been at the beach all day or something like that, if I remember correctly. So they just wanted to hang out at home. I said, okay, let's just do it. I'm really, really skeptical that this will work out, but let's just go for it. It will be an interesting story, if nothing else. So suddenly we get a request for not only that it's going to be take-in food or take-out food, we're going to call it in. We're actually going to go and pick it up for them, and they want McDonald's. Now, me and my friend never eat fast food, and we definitely don't eat McDonald's ever. So for me, it was going to be a kind of, I guess, a culinary experience to go to McDonald's and pick this up. It really felt like almost silly that we were going to do this, and I was like, fine, they only want like a McDonald's now. So we asked them what they wanted. We order a taxi, and we go to the McDrive, and we order, which was kind of funny because it was very hard for us to pronounce with a Russian accent what we wanted at McDonald's, because of the the accent with the English. It was like McChicken sandwich, or Big Mac, obviously everyone understands, but we had to order all these things. I ordered a salad for myself. Basically, we had this huge amount of food with us because we were ordering for 4 people, and we have it all packed in. Our tech staff is also very amused by what we're ordering and everything, and we leave the McDrive to go to this address. Now, I'm still skeptical that this just seems too odd, considering the normal protocol here in Ukraine, that first we're going to their place, remember, without having ever met them. That seems just way too friendly. And then they're not interested in anything materialistic or even a nice meal, that they want us to come over and eat McDonald's. But I'm like, hey, we've got the McDonald's, we're almost there. So we arrive, and it's kind of hard to see where the entrance to the place is. We get out of the taxi, we have all our food, and we walk somewhere where it's really dark, and I was like joking to my friend, I was like, yeah, this is where 3 guys jump out and beat the crap out of it. But anyways, we walk around a bit, still can't find it. This stage I know a little bit of background about the girls. At least the girl that's arranged the date is Azeri from Azerbaijan, and she's studying in London, hence why her English was so good on the phone rather, when we had the phone call. So I'm kind of also joking with my friend, maybe 3 Azeri guys are going to jump out and grab us and just rob us. Anyways, we managed to find, eventually, by making a few more phone calls from where the entrance is, her friend comes. She does not look as good looking as in the photo. So already I'm like, you know, why did I come all the way here? This McDonald's moved ridiculous. She asked my friend, can she take the bags in? And my friend's like, no, we got them. It's fine. That might seem like a normal request, but actually in Ukraine, I would be surprised if girls actually wanted to help us carry stuff in. They usually leave that to men, anything that involves carrying anything. So again, a little bit strange. Then there was, her friend was kind of, I guess, behind the door to the building. Now you gotta remember, this is in a housing estate, right? So these are not super high rises, but like at least a building with several stories. And she said something kind of odd to her in Russian. It was very dark, by the way, so I couldn't film properly or anything like that. Because of the darkness, and it just wasn't going to come out in the light. And I remember thinking, it was something like, yeah, I'm still holding the door open for you. But she said, like in the singular, not for you guys or anything like that, which struck me as a bit odd. I mean, this is just in a split second, as opposed to, you know, what I would normally have expected to be said when you've got a group of people who are obviously going to come in. Then, all of a sudden, the other girl comes out from the door, the entrance to the building, and she is wearing some sort of headscarf, which obviously threw me a bit because she'd obviously sent photos where she's dressed up very elegantly with no head coverings, looking very modern and glamorous, in fact, in the photos. She appears to be from a wealthy family in Azerbaijan. Another thing that was interesting is that she had been using a name, Lubna. We'll come back to that a little bit later, about who she really is, because obviously she did not use her real name, Bumble. So she comes out, she's wearing a headscarf. Now, she suddenly starts saying something like, it could have been in Arabic, I'm not sure if it's in Azeri, don't speak either of those languages, where she's kind of like praying or something, just very bizarre. And her friend who's with her says, yeah, my friend is really religious, so that's why she's wearing the headscarf, that's why she's praying, that's why she's not going to greet you. This is the same girl that had sent us the photos, made the connection, and is dressed glamorously at the best restaurants and looking remotely. So obviously this is some sort of funny prank or joke, I'm guessing. I mean, that split second you're like, yeah, this is super weird. Little does she know that my friend actually does speak Arabic fluently, and he was like, oh cool, then recite the first verse of the Quran, and he named the prayer, whatever it is. I'm not really familiar with that. And then she looked a little bit taken aback, and then she started saying something, and after maybe about 10 seconds, my friend said, oh, very impressive, but that's not the first verse of the Quran. It's something completely different. It's a different poem or song or whatever it was. So you're not fooling anyone. At this point, she kind of looked at us as she had the door open, and she said, not fooling anyone. And then they slammed the door shut, locked the key, and left us outside with the McDonald's meal, which I guess had been their original plan, was to actually just grab the food. I mean, that's why she was holding the door open for her friend, and then they would slam it shut. Maybe after they played this prank about being devout Muslims. So we're standing outside, we have all this McDonald's food, and it's kind of funny because obviously this didn't cost a huge amount of money. It's still obviously an expense, but and we're not going to meet them, obviously, so it's a little bit annoying. And we were like, hey, actually you can even have the food, you just open up the door, but silence. Like, they blocked my friend on WhatsApp straight away, unmatched him from the app to cover their tracks, and we were still left standing there with all this McDonald's food it was like about 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night. So we were like, what are we going to do with it? Well, we don't want to eat it. We don't even like the McDonald's food that's here in front of us. So we got into a taxi and we went down to Arcadia. This is actually kind of amusing because we tried to give the food away. And you would think in Ukraine that maybe people would be interested in a McDonald's meal. Apparently they're not interested from two foreigners, because we begged people literally to take the food from us, and no one was willing. So eventually we just ate a little bit of it and had to just leave it on a bench and walk away from it. And then we actually went out in Arcadia. We actually had a great night. We went to Ibiza, to a nice concert there, Ibiza Club, and actually both of us met two nice girls who are not scammers. So there you go, that's the McDonald's scammer. Now, I wrote her a message afterwards saying, hey, that was a funny, she had actually been following me on Instagram because I managed to see which was her account, and in the stories, Instagram stories, you can see who watches them. So she'd actually been following me. So I wrote her a message, pretty pleasant under the circumstances, saying like, hey, funny trick with the McDonald's stuff the other night. Maybe you want to, as you know already who I am, won't introduce myself, but you can always give me an interview. I'm open to that if you want to explain your side of the story about what happened. And then I got a message back in Russian telling me basically to go fuck myself, and Layla not to write her or something like that. That was not her real name. I did manage to track down her real name, Aliyah. You know, it was kind of a funny joke, but really, for a girl who seems wealthy from Baku, studying in London, a McDonald's meal, you're even willing to lower yourself to be a scammer for a McDonald's meal. So that is the McDonald's scammer story. It's especially for Rob, a guy I know who hung out with me in Munich in Germany a few years ago. Actually came once to Odessa to see us here, and he really wanted me to tell the story on camera to find out more. So Rob, there you go. That's actually what happened that night. Now, why is this a little bit more serious than maybe the McDonald's meal? Because I can imagine the comments below, especially if it's from the trollers who show up in my main videos. It's not about the McDonald's meal or the cost. And obviously this is almost lighthearted because it's so silly. It's kind of like a prank a student would play. You know, we got the dumb idiots to get us a McDonald's meal, we stole it, right? And whatever, she pretends to be some devout Muslim when she's obviously not anything but Aliyah. So this is a pattern, right? Now, these girls, if they're willing to do that for the McDonald's meal, they're willing to do that in the most expensive restaurant in the city. And this is what I talked about earlier, and which is part of the problem. For you guys to come here, something to be really careful of. Like, there's a perverse incentive to go and have a meal with you because they know that guys pay the bill here. And even my Ukrainian guy friends have told me it is an issue even for them, but it's completely exacerbated if you're a foreigner and you come here, because perceptions of foreigners have a lot of money and they're kind of like stupid, and they're chasing all the girls because, you know, girls in our country are so ugly that they can't get laid and they can't date anyone decent, and these girls are such a have such high value for them that they can basically play and do whatever they want. And it might be just a McDonald's meal now, but it could have just easily been a €200 meal. That's just kind of a waste of the guy's time. Or if we brought them to a nice restaurant, obviously they weren't interested or serious. And that's the thing when you're dating, it can be a lot of risk because you have to be careful. You need to ascertain, is this person really interested in you? Is it just a date to get to know each other? Or is it just like, I want free food and Instagram opportunity from this guy who I couldn't care less about who pays the bill and who I have to listen to for 1 hour on the date. So you have to be able to figure that out from before, whether the person judging is really genuine. Now, this even isn't really a scam, you could say, in the sense that, well, it's just dating, you never know, maybe the person is materially motivated. But it can be a lot worse, like what I described with this Portuguese guy who came over to me, where it was just like they brought him to a restaurant because obviously they got a kickback from the restaurant, and they charged him like, I think it was €400 for a seafood platter and a bottle of champagne, local bottle of champagne, when the bill should have been probably no more than €30. It turned into 400. So there you have, that's basically a crime. That is a crime. That's theft, larceny. That's where it goes to. So I think a lot of the people who write these comments to me under the videos about Ukrainian girls, and yeah, they should definitely get as much out of you because the guys who come here are only interested in having sex with them for a short time, whatever. It's like, it's actually criminal what happens if someone goes that far to have an agreement with a restaurant just to, inflate the price or overcharge you, and especially if they go there just simply to eat lots of food because they're receiving a payment. And I think you should think carefully if you want to support that kind of behavior. Any of you who actually got to the end of this video as a troller, but I doubt that's the case. I think most of you are probably guys who are sincere, who come here looking for romance and adventure, and this is what you got to look out for. So how can I, this was obviously a funny story in a sense with the McDonald's scammer. Aliyah, well, maybe someone who recognizes you will see this video and kind of maybe tick you off about it. If you ever decide to come back, always buy me a McDonald's meal. Actually, don't buy me a McDonald's meal in exchange for that. Won't eat it. But bring me somewhere and buy me a coffee and apologize maybe if you have any gumption. Unlikely, let's be honest. So, yeah, how do you recognize that girls like this are not interested in you? Well, you got to see if they're trying to lead you to an expensive place. Whether, like in this culture, guys would always lead and suggest the place, say, hey, we're going to go out, we're picking this restaurant. So if they start saying, no, I want to go to this very expensive place, it's likely just, interested in going to that place. If the girl is way out of your league, normally, like, be serious. Girls are not desperate here in Ukraine in general, so you can definitely date girls who are a lot better looking than maybe you would date in the States or Western Europe. That's because there are just a lot more pretty girls here. But try to be a little bit realistic if you've never met the girl in person, and maybe I would recommend you just suggest the place yourself. Make it simple. It doesn't have to be a glamorous restaurant unless you happen to be there and you're comfortable with that. But I would always try to not impress girls in the beginning with money or some sort of thing that is going to maybe attract the wrong type of girl. But it is difficult, and these are shark-infested waters, the dating waters in Ukraine for sure, if you're a foreign guy. So that's the end of this story. Of course, if you probably gotten to the end of the video, you maybe have your own stories about online dating with girls from Ukraine or Russia or former Soviet Union, or maybe met them here in Ukraine, or maybe you've used an app, a dating app, had some positive or negative experiences. Write me a comment below the video, let me know how you got on, because we're building this community of people who are traveling here, or are passionate about it, and every story you tell will help someone else, not just me, not just telling me, Connor, about it, but also other people who are interested. All the information there is really like a great resource for all of you who are planning to come, so really do your best to help everyone out there and drop a comment. Really appreciate it. As you can see, I have an allergy to a plant here that comes out in August, so this is not my best month in terms of sounding like uncongested and everything, so apologies for that on this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, then strike the like button, big thumbs up, and make sure that you're subscribed and squeeze that red subscribe button, and of course whack the notification bell out of the park so that you're notified when I'm uploading new videos that are gonna be helping you a lot if you're actually thinking of ever coming here to Ukraine or somewhere else in Eastern Europe, because this is the region that I've been focusing on for the last few months and will continue in the future. Been shooting some amazing sick footage here in Odessa, Ukraine over the last few weeks. It's just going to be so much good content in terms of travel vlogs and other advice videos I have coming up for you guys very soon. So with that said, wish you a very pleasant evening, morning, or afternoon wherever you are. It's Do Svidaniya or Do Pobachення from Odessa, Ukraine. See you in the next episode.
SAR Experience.